I recently had the opportunity to talk with another content creator about FACEandLMS, our past experiences in trying to coordinate some type of debate with him, and to a lesser extent, just the state of the Manosphere today. Since there is a lot of history at this point between me and FACEandLMS, as well as this other content creator that spoke with me who goes by the name of Oscar or Chaos, I decided to do a quick recap of the events that took place throughout the years. Once again, this is also a reminder, this in no way, shape, or form is any type of slight against FACEandLMS. Everything that I say is in the context of referring to the persona that is FACEandLMS, and there really isn't any mean-spirited agenda here. It literally is just going over factual events that have taken place just when it came to me and Oscar trying to coordinate some type of discourse with FACEandLMS. That's it. We don't have any true anger with him. We don't wish anything bad to him. That was never the case. So with that being said, I originally made an account in 2021, and I titled my account BP 2021, and I started making videos on YouTube in response to FACEandLMS and a lot of his ideologies about lookism, dating, aesthetics, and all of that. Eventually, I became friends with First, who was another big content creator at the time. First was one of the moderators in a Discord server that went by the name of Mamoon, and First invited me to join Mamoon. When I joined that server, First decided to place me in the in-celebrity category, and that category was designated for anyone that was a member who also was a content creator. So actually at the time, you had Tails, there was the base Pluto, there was Dark Cell, Medican was there, and of course FACEandLMS, as well as many others. You can clearly see that on a nightly basis, when I was in the server back in 2021, I would log on, and either below me or above me would be FACEandLMS. Now, because of this proximity and possible in I had when it came to reaching out to FACEandLMS, since we were both a part of this server, I made a video critiquing some points of FACEandLMS. And FACEandLMS actually watched it, listened to it, and he actually gave me credit. He said it was a good video. At this point, I thought there was a decent chance that there would be some type of discourse, at the very least, with me and FACEandLMS, because he saw that I clearly was being serious and I didn't have any hostility in my content. I was just trying to progress a lot of his talking points a little farther. That was it. However, when First really tried to coordinate a neutral debate between me and Face, meaning that First would be sort of the moderator of the debate. He wouldn't take any side. He was just going to coordinate it. FACEandLMS started to backpedal, and he chickened out. Quite often when FACEandLMS would log on and he would appear in the server, people would say, well, why don't you finally debate BP 2021? And Face would constantly say he didn't want to do it. And eventually First kept pushing him until FACEandLMS just flat out admitted, yeah, he's willing to be a coward. That's really what it came down to. First truly was able to pinpoint the reason as to why FACEandLMS never wanted to do a debate. It was because Face was just scared. And that's fine. I don't hate him for that. There's no animosity simply because of that, but it is the truth. First identifies that the reason why FACEandLMS doesn't do a debate is simply because he's a coward. FACEandLMS completely acknowledges it in plain text. So that is the truth, straight from Face's mouth. He's completely at peace with being a coward. And yes, that's the true reason as to why he didn't want to do a debate, because he knew he would lose. It's the same reason why Incel TV or Rehab Room was so quick to say he would never debate, because he knew he would lose. It's always the same reason when it comes to these individuals. So in 2022, Face went into hiding, and he continued to basically hide. At this point, he was no longer making content anymore. Now, behind the scenes, we were able to get additional information from him. Face did make the admission in 2022 that the content he used to make and all of the stuff he said, it no longer really bothered him anymore. Now, it's interesting that he would say that once he knew that a lot of his ideologies were starting to get debunked and exposed. And it's also important to take from this that his main goal was really just to vent. Once he claims that he no longer is angry or frustrated with a lot of the things he used to talk about, he all of a sudden doesn't want to make content anymore. Now, the reason why he made the content in the first place was truly just to vent. So fast forward to 2023. This was when me and Oscar both tried reaching out to Face and LMS again, and Face at the time said he actually would finally be willing to have some type of debate. It was around March or April of 2023 when both of us presented an outline of what we wanted to talk about, and then once Face saw what I outlined for a potential debate, Face blocked me and Oscar. Now again, the only reason why he would block us is because once he saw what I outlined and what Chaos or Oscar outlined, he realized that he was going to lose in all of the exchanges. So his response was to simply block us and run away. So fast forward to 2024. Now, in the beginning of 2024, because Face blocked him, I couldn't use my original Discord account. So I created a new account and I reached out to Face and LMS. And we were talking, and I told Face, look, this is BP 2021. I'm sure you still remember me. I don't have any bad blood with you, but I would at least finally like to get some type of discourse going. I think, you've had a lot of things you have thought about throughout your life when it comes to a lot of these talking points. I have a lot of evidence and content I could bring to the table as well. I think it would really help progress a lot of the discussions you used to have in some new territory. And he seemed like he was thinking about it. It was when I told him that I had a lot of success, and I was still having a lot of success, that really seemed to make him a bit bitter. And once I showed him proof in all of the receipts, he did give me credit. He did acknowledge it. But I think it also pushed him to the edge where he really had no intention of ever having any type of open communication with me. Because I think at that point it was the final nail in the coffin that demonstrated if we did have any exchange, he would simply lose in every single talking point, because there were times in the past where these guys would claim that I was this hideous individual that never had any success. Once I started showing like true video clips and pictures and my actual dating accounts and all of my receipts, Face and LMS quickly shut up, and he was like, oh, okay, no, you're legit. I give you credit. But because you're so legit and because all of your ideas are so good and you have so much evidence for everything, I don't think I could debate you because you would just destroy me. That's essentially what he was saying. So at that point, Face and LMS finally gave me one final message, and it was just a spam message because, I don't know, maybe his account got hacked, or maybe because he wanted to make it seem like he wasn't really using that account anymore. But either way, I haven't received any message from Face and LMS since then, and this is going back to the beginning of 2024. I think I reached out one more time, but as you can see from our actual Discord conversation, there was no response. And if I recall correctly, I think somewhere on Face's page, somewhere in one of his community posts, he made a comment because someone was asking him for his Discord, and I think he said something like he doesn't use Discord anymore. He's completely off of that app. And I think the only reason why he's off that app is because he knows that people can potentially reach out to him and just simply correct some of the things he said in the past. And I think that's just so traumatic that he just doesn't want to entertain that. And that's what all of this really comes down to. There's no bad blood. There's no hate. I don't wish bad on any of these people. It's just that some of the things they've said just isn't really accurate. And some of them are honestly, some of the things they've said truly borderlines on just flat out dishonesty. And all I wanted to do was just correct a few of those things. And they get terrified that they run away and resort to hiding, and they just make up lies. And, that's the game that they play. So this was just a quick recap, some context to the timeline that me and Oscar will be referring to in our ever and ongoing efforts in trying to get some type of debate or discussion with Face and LMS. When I started re-uploading not too long ago, I noticed that you were leaving him some comments.
Yeah, I mean, from what I remember, I started commenting on his community post like last year, 2024. And then he started to art my comment, like not just like, like he literally arted the comment. And then until now, like every once in a while, I would leave a comment on his community post that's already 2 years old. And he would periodically like the comments. And so I thought that was interesting, because I do remember that I think it was around like 2022 or 2023 when he lost his channel. Like, do you remember the year when he, got struck by YouTube, or not really?
Yeah, I remember. I remember that period very well, actually. I believe that was in 2023. I think that was like around August, like around like the August, September, October period, because I'm pretty sure YouTube did like some type of wave, and like they removed a bunch of channels during that 3 month period towards like the second half of 2023. My channel also had some trouble as well, and I know a bunch of other channels got removed, but I know I'm pretty sure he quickly he appealed that, and he got his channel back. So yes, I do remember that point in time.
Yeah, I think it was around like September to October, like 2024 or 2023.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah.
And from what I remember, um, ITV's channel was already like Rehab Room at that point. Then I remember actually seeing him post a message from FACEandLMS. I think it was from like Patreon, and then Face talked about how he will try to appeal the strike, and then if he doesn't succeed in getting back his channel, that's basically it. But I think it's pretty interesting just seeing the combination of him, number one, quitting from 2021, and at that point in 2023, it was already like 2 years after the last time that he posted content and collaborated with someone. Basically, like from then, he no longer streamed, like he disappeared altogether.
I think that had a lot to do with when you sort of reached out to him. Um, I think this was this in 2022 maybe, when you I think it was, right. It was like either like the end of 2022 towards the beginning of 2023, that period. Didn't you make like an attempt to reach out to him, and he actually was talking to you, right? Because I think like we both did. I think that was when me and you both were reaching out to him, and we were pushing for some type of debate. He just was running at that point. Like I really don't remember
Yeah.
him ever being stable. Like, ever since then, he's just been like in constant like running away mode.
So I think it's interesting, that happened. And so now, fast forward to 2025, I think it's pretty interesting how I'm pretty sure he still reads everything that gets commented on his 2-year-old community post, which makes me curious about what he thinks. I wonder whether or not he logs on to his channel and that's how he sees those comments.
He clearly is reading the comments, because if he wasn't, he wouldn't be having any engagement or response to any of those comments at all. So he clearly is reading the comments. Ever since he did that debate with A Second Look, I think that really put him on shaky ground. And then when you reached out to him, deep down there was just no way he was gonna open himself up to another debate that would make him look bad. Because, it's like I said before, I think ultimately all of those channels by those original content creators in the sphere, I think, they'll try to advertise and claim that they're trying to do men a service and they're trying to be all about the truth. But I would argue that the main reason as to why they make that content is just because that's how they personally cope with their own issues and failures. I don't think they really have any um, mission for trying to convey the truth or trying to actually hit on realities, because their behavior doesn't indicate so. They intentionally try to gatekeep, they intentionally try to control narratives. Um, if there's someone that they think that can refute one of their ideas, like they have absolutely no, they have no desire to ever talk to that person. In fact, they'll probably like resent that person. um, they make no effort to really study female nature. Like on the surface they'll claim that's what they're about, but I mean if you look at their stuff, it's really like it's basically just the same copy and pasted circle jerk ideology for at this point years, like almost like a decade. Like it's approaching in like an actual real life decade for guys like Face and Incel Rehab Room. um, that's just the reality.
Oh boy.
I mean, like at least Face made an effort in the past to have some debates. While I mean, obviously, all of those debates he had, they were very controlled. Like he always had like a certain amount of tactics he tried to pull. Like he would, like he would sort of like debate you, but then he had to have like three or four additional peeps, like three or four of his like most trusted um like friends on with him, so it would be like a 4 against 1. Or he would debate someone, but he was hand selecting who it would be. Like he would only debate someone that he would think he would have some type of leverage against, like some type of dating coach that was, sort of bullshit in his own right. He never really was open to any type of like fair, good faith debate. He never really demonstrated that. I think the closest was a second look, and that's exactly, I think why he has made an effort to never entertain that again. Because when he does actually make himself open to have, any type of discussion really with someone who's just trying to be objective, he gets exposed. All of his crazy and very extreme ideologies get exposed. I feel like a lot of people have sort of moved on because, for instance, like for instance, in my like on my Discord, right, uh, throughout all of the different servers that I was in, like when I was in Mamoon, right, which in 2021 was like a pretty big server. And especially the fact that it had the content creator section. So Tails was in there when Tails was first starting to like become big. FACEandLMS was in there. That's how we always saw his his status. That would say he was playing Truck Simulator or working on WA 7. That was back in 2021. And like I would be right there. I think Base Pluto was right there. So like there would be a lot of nights where it would be like under like the creator tab, it would be like FACEandLMS, Tails, Black Pill 2021, the Base Pluto. And like First would also be in there. Medican was there. So like that was a very big pop-in server. And being in that server, a lot of people over time would reach out to me and like I would add them. I never see like those people log on like ever. Like I like a lot of the people that were active back then they're just not around anymore. I think like the things that have made for the content creators that still keep going, what they've had to do, they sort of had to rebrand in a lot of ways, and like they needed to sort of change their content to make it more general doomer stuff. Because I don't know if like the pure lookism thing is, I don't know how like viable that is for a lot of these guys to just make content about. They had to like broaden some of the things that they would talk about. So I think a lot of them went like the general doomer route, and or they just sort of like weakened their own content to make it appeal to just like a little bit of a wider net of people.
I'm curious. Do you think that if Face didn't leave the BP sphere. Do you think that these people, like his, the in celebrities, I think that's the category in the Mamoon, right? The in celebrities,
Yeah.
like you, Face, do you think that those people, they wouldn't leave if Face remained, or do you think that it's going to get to the point anyway where Face, he would be by himself pretty much, or maybe like he, and then Waffles, and then ITV? Do you think that that's what's gonna happen, or do you think that those people are gonna leave? I mean, the people that are pretty much gone at this point.
I think they'll still keep making content, but my point is that if you look at the content that they make now, their content has changed a lot. I think those have been the trade-offs that really had to have been made for them to keep making content. I certainly think that the absence of Face means that, if like FACEandLMS, like the godfather, if you will, of this space, I certainly think that removes a lot of the motivation for a lot of viewers. The absence of him certainly hurts this space the most. If he would do a stream, I would talk to First about this too. It's like, if Face would have like one of his streams about to start, if you would go into that like waiting room, or if you would go on that link that would eventually turn into the stream at the time Face would set it to go live, you could go like hours before the stream would start and people would already be in there waiting, like spamming shit. So I was on a trip actually in 2024, and someone sent me a message on Discord. So at first I think it was a friend request, so I accepted the friend request. Then we were talking, and he was asking me questions about what I thought about Rehab Room. He was like a fan of Incel TV, Rehab Room. And I remember he told me, like, even though he's like a fan, he was admitting to me, like, yeah, Rehab Room basically is just like a vent channel now. It's very obvious that has always been his brand. He was asking me why I think Rehab Room, like the stuff he says, is incorrect or false. I gave him my reasons, like I supported them. And I think eventually I said, he asked me, well, what do you think about like the studies that Rehab Room talks about? And I said, like, I'm pretty familiar with his old content, and I'm somewhat familiar with his new content. I don't really remember him ever posting studies. The only thing I really remember him posting was like a very old online dating survey, which I've shown in my own content before. And he was like, yeah, I guess Rehab Room, yeah, he is sort of just like more venting nowadays. So like his own fan base sort of knows that he's just like a vent channel, right? I mean, he just makes like a 20 to 30 minute video where he just like rambles the same copy and pasted ideas. And it's just like him emotionally just signaling his frustration. He's not really hitting on any realizations. He's not supporting anything. He's not building an argument or a case for anything. In fact, like, he's terrified of having that type of engagement because like his whole, like, the Rehab Room, it's like for his own rehabilitation. Like it's for his own rehab. Like that's just the way he copes. He just wants to vent. Like that's his personal therapy. And I would say Face is maybe somewhere in between Wheat Waffles and Rehab Room. Face is certainly more objective than Rehab Room, but I wouldn't say he's as willing to have some type of discourse or make an attempt at being objective as Wheat Waffles is, right? So if you think of like a spectrum, I think like when you draw it out, I would say Rehab Room is pure vent, right? Even per his own like fan base. FACEandLMS, he has to get credit because he has made attempts to actually have some type of discourse with other people. And there are times where he will attempt to build some type of objective case. But he also is very select in how he does it, right? More so than Wheat Waffles. Whereas Wheat Waffles is certainly much more willing, provided that you have, like, I guess,
I think what Wheat Waffles wants is, because we have to like give Wheat Waffles credit. Like he has a very, very big channel, right? So he's probably not going to want to like waste his time with any random person just trying to engage him. So if we push to the side the fact that he wants, like, if he does engage with someone, he wants them to have some type of following, he's definitely much more willing to try to be objective than Face and LMSs. So that's sort of like how I see those three, like on a spectrum.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. So I think about FACEandLMS and his tenure of being a content creator. What do you think his goal was? What was his end game? Do you think that he was just planning to beat the same dead horses, or do you think that he was actually working towards something or building towards a point? Because I'm curious about what his goal was, or like, is he just going through the motions? Or
I know, like, on the surface he wants to make a case he's making content to help guys deal with inceldom, and he also wants to study female nature, right? He wants to study evolutionary biology, and he wants to hit on realities when it comes to aesthetics and dating, in order to help men make the most informed decisions, right? That's ultimately like the best attempt in a politically correct manner, like justify why someone makes this type of content in the first place, right? It's ultimately to help men with making more informed decisions when it comes to navigating like a dating life, right? So I'm sure like FACEandLMS has certainly insinuated that, but there's certain things like that's what he'll say. In terms of if I believe it, if I think it, there's certain things he does that makes me have reservations in thinking he's being genuine and honest. The biggest thing is his unwillingness to have any type of open discussion with someone who wants to bring a different perspective, especially if that person has a lot of evidence to support what they're asserting. If that assertion runs counter to anything he's said, he's very apprehensive, right? So that doesn't make sense to me, because someone who ultimately, if they really are just about the truth, if they really are just about making content to help men with understanding just reality, if you push all bias aside and you're just about getting to the objective truth, then you can't just push and ignore people away if they're going to hit on a reality that makes you look bad. Like if you're wrong, then that's your own issue. Like it seemed like he was more concerned about how he looked than what the actual truth was. So it's hard for me to say deep down I really think he cared about the truth, or that he really cared about just trying to be a true historian and accountant of dating. I don't think his behavior has demonstrated that, because then why would he have such an issue? Why would he be so afraid? Why would he run away from people that had very strong cases and a lot of evidence and stuff that he, by his own logic, would call high IQ evidence? Why would he be terrified of entertaining that? The only thing that possibly could be the reason is, oh, well, it's clearly going to show that a lot of his assertions he made back in 2018 or 2019 or 2020, they were incorrect, they were false, they were inaccurate, they were wrong. So he clearly was operating with some type of like state-controlled media mindset. And it's the same thing with Incel TV. That guy was super terrified. I remember someone asked him in his Discord to debate me, and he said, no, I'm not going to do that, because he was afraid. And I think, I'll probably share some of the screenshots I had with FACEandLMS. It was the same thing. Like you could tell FACEandLMS clearly, like once I started laying down like an outline of what I wanted to talk about, FACEandLMS instantly went dead silent, and he ran away, and then he blocked me. And he literally blocked me just because I outlined what I wanted to talk about. And he knew that if he ever had a stream and he let me make my points, it would make him look very, very bad. Like he wouldn't have won any of those exchanges, right? So it's like, what do I think Face's purpose was? I think again, similar to Rehab Room, I think a lot of this, it was just for his own therapy. He wants to vent. He wants some outlet to talk about these things because I think they weigh on him a lot. So it's sort of an outlet to talk about these things in some way. It's like his own rehabilitation, his own therapy, his own cope. I don't think he ultimately was just trying to be someone that wanted to study female nature. I think it's very simple. It's a very simple litmus test. It's like if someone claims that they're about the truth and they just want to study this, well, when push comes to shove and someone approaches them in a very, and I did to both of these guys, in originally very friendly, amicable manner, if they get terrified and they run away, it doesn't make any sense. The only reason as to why that would be is because deep down they don't actually really care about the truth or reality. They just want to vent and they're terrified of being wrong. It's just their own fragility that's being exposed.